Hey there folks, and it's Brian with Foxfire Armory again. Today we're going to change things up a little bit and move away from the gear reviews, and today we are going to go over a topic that is kind of near and dear to me, and that is preparedness. And you may see me look down just to get my notes, make sure my thoughts are all there, make sure get you all the information that's pertinent, at least for the beginning prepper or someone who's familiar with prepping but doesn't really know where to start. And so to kick things off with that, we're going to kind of go into a little intro of what is prepping, what is preparedness, right? And prepping, being prepared, preparedness at its core basic is basically just having the stuff that you need for your day-to-day life to survive if a situation were to arise, similar to like what happened with the pandemic. And could you survive without facilities, groceries, that kind of stuff, right? For an extended to semi-extended length of time. There are a lot of misconceptions around preppers, prepping, the prepping community, right? They think a lot of people are just a bunch of whack jobs who, want their doomsday bunkers and their millions of guns and hoard food stores, right? That, yes, there's always going to be those crazy lunatics who that's the aspect of their preparedness and their prepping that they're going to do. But for the common basic person, as far as prepping is concerned, it's literally just that. It's being prepared for anything, right? You could live in Florida where there's hurricane seasons and it's being prepared for the inevitability of a hurricane coming in, right? It could be something as simple as like what happened in Texas, right? Being prepared for the potential threat of your power going out, right? And having no means of cooking, grocery stores being out. It's things like that. It's preparing for the hopefully never happens type of scenario, but the situation may arise, or in the case of like hurricanes, that kind of stuff, it's bound to happen. Same thing goes with California and the forest fires, right? That's just a natural occurrence. It happens every year. It's just the severity changes from year to year, but you should know that that stuff happens there and be prepared for it. And that's really all prepping is, and that's really all preparedness really is. And so I think people feel like you need to have whatever, a year's worth of food and for 4 family members, and you have to have, this piece of equipment and that piece of equipment. Really, that's not what we're talking about. When we're talking about preparedness, you set the goal of what you feel like is the necessity for your family. That could be a 2-week food supply, food water supply. That could be a 3-month food water supply. Could be 3 years, 30 years, whatever. Really, that's going to be up to you, and that's also going to be up to your financial situation, right? Not everyone can afford to go out, myself included, and spend thousands of dollars every month on preps. So getting that out of the way, right? I think everyone should be prepared. In some fashion or another, everyone should be prepared. It's just that harkens back to who we are as... All right, sorry there, folks. I had an issue with the SD card. Now that we got that fixed, let's jump right back into it. So, like I was starting to say, our base instincts as Homo sapien is survival. And that is kind of that core of who we are as humans, is the ability to survive and potentially thrive, right? Thrive would be the ideal situation, but survive at a base level, that's the most important. And so I think that's one of the biggest and probably the largest misconception when it comes to preppers and preparedness, right? So now that that's out of the way, we'll get into the prepper mindset. And basically what that is the prepper mindset is, it's not something you do because you know something's coming, right? You don't start preparing when the hurricane is off the shore of Florida. You don't start preparing when the forest fires have already started in California. You prepare prior to those incidents happening. Otherwise, that's when you get things like food shortages, toilet paper shortages, the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. So being prepared prior to those events happening, that's the mindset. It should be more of a lifestyle than it is just a thought process that you have. So being prepared and being a prepper are not necessarily a bad thing, right? Being prepared, prepping things that you might necessarily need in a situation, those are all good things. Those are all things you should be doing anyway. People put away money into a savings account for future purchases, right? Or if something were to happen at their home, they have those funds on hand in case they need them. It's the same thing when prepping food, prepping water, right? You're just doing it for different circumstances. So that's the mindset, right? The mindset is your mentality towards making sure that you've covered your bases and you're prepared for whatever might happen, right? So from there, we can get into just the quick basic gear and training side of things, right? So you're going to need some equipment when it comes to preparing, whether that is a camp stove, water bricks, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that you could get. But purchasing things that are going to be useful and that will actually get utilized, that is what's going to be most important when it comes to gear. So for food storage, if you're buying Mylar bags, I forget the things are called, the desiccant or whatever, it's the little water absorbing little packet things that you can throw in, say, a 5-gallon bucket with a resealable gamma lid into your rice, into your corn, into your beans, whatever it may be. That's the kind of stuff when we're talking gear, right? We're not necessarily talking the chest rig or, your 10,000 lumen torchlight, right? Those things are fun and all, but that's really not what's at the core of prepping, right? It's going to be food and water storage and things that are going to help keep your family alive. And so the other big thing when it comes to gear is medical equipment. It's an often kind of afterthought or just not really thought of at all. But medical equipment, which leads me into training, is going to be one of the biggest things you can do as a prepper and being prepared, right? So I always recommend CPR. CPR courses, everyone should know it. If you want to get a little more into it, TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty, I don't remember what the whole acronym stands for. But I'll leave some links in the descriptions. But having a individual first aid kit or IFAK is going to be huge. You may not necessarily need it for yourself, but using it for somebody else. Boo-boo kits, which is basically your Band-Aids, Neosporin, that kind of stuff. But having that stuff on hand and having enough if you needed it for your entire family, that's what's going to be ideal. And then knowing how to use that stuff, right? And that's where the training part comes in. So whether it's firearms training, whether it is medical training, whether it's training on how to cook, right? That's a skill. It's a useful skill. Training on how to make your own ingredients. So if you need to make cornmeal, how do you make cornmeal from corn, right? From scratch. So getting the training to be able to use the gear is just as important as the gear itself, right? You need to strategically know, okay, this is the gear I need to purchase, here's how I use it, and you need to use it, right? And be familiar with it. So that's basically the basics of prepping preparedness. There's probably a million videos out there, but this is coming from someone who, really hasn't gotten into the preparedness thing for too long. It's maybe the last 10 years, basically since being a homeowner, honestly, is when it came. But being prepared and preparedness, coming from someone who really doesn't have the funds to do the big prepping stuff, the off-grid homesteading style stuff, it's important, right? And we just saw it last year with the pandemic. We actually went through a whole bunch of food stores that I had saved up. Because it was hard to get to the grocery store, and then when we could get to the grocery store, the shelves were fairly bare, and it just made me realize just how unprepared for an extended long-term scenario I was, right? So luckily things kind of teetered and the logistics kind of came back and we were able to get to the grocery store and whatnot. But what I had originally had prepared pretty much saved us for, a few weeks of basically not being able to get to the grocery store and get the food and goods that we needed, right? Because I'm not going to the grocery store every week during the pandemic, between having to wear the masks and just the millions of people that were bombarding the grocery stores. So probably should have muted that phone, but whatever. It's always good fun. So basically just being prepared, having some sort of plan in place, and knowing what you're kind of preparing for, right? That's going to be the key to this. So I thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to try to come out with some more of these, some of the kind of intro to prepping, some a little more advanced stuff, some of the prepping gear that's worthwhile. Kind of make it like a little mini series here on the channel. So thank you again. I appreciate it for checking out the content and sticking with it. And please, if you enjoy the content, like, share, subscribe. It definitely helps, and I would greatly appreciate all the little help I can get. Thank you guys, and have a good day.